what's your definition of strategy? And I would say, as a practitioner, I try to keep it simple. For me, it's not some high-flying words. It's not a big book. It's a collection of the major decisions that you've made on the significant opportunities and issues that present to yourself. And so it's choices and its resource commitments that in its collection form a company strategy. Sometimes it is derived from an overarching big picture strategy. We want to be the biggest in this, or we want to be the fastest or the cheapest in that. Sometimes it goes the other way around. It's the collection of decisions that ultimately creates the story, and it doesn't always turn out as neatly as we might like it to be. But nevertheless, I think the way I want to think about it is it's a sequence of choices that then together defines what your strategy de facto is. And yes, there's a goal, I think, behind it. And I'd prefer to think about it as doubling shareholder value every 5 years, whatever that is. And it requires lots of stakeholders to play along and do this. But I still have this old-fashioned view that the capital markets matter and recognize those guys who try to do this, as opposed to others. Couple questions. Where's strategy going? And Walter threw at me, do we actually need a strategy? And obviously, I mean, you've heard this. Globalization, more sophisticated competitors, technologies, data availability everywhere. The environment is getting tougher and tougher. We just had a recession. We may face a low growth environment for a long period of time. There are regulatory dynamics coming up, like in healthcare and other areas, that present opportunities or threats. There's consolidation that to a large part maybe even triggered through the recession and the low growth environment we went through, and not everybody makes it through. Those are factors that require that you have the strategy. You can't just do business as usual. You go under if you do that. So strategy is needed. Second question is, do you need a strategy development process of some kind? Or is it an ad hoc thing that just happens in the organization? And I would argue you do need a process like that. It could be centralized or decentralized. It could be all happening in a variety of ways. But you need to have an explicit process for it. And the reason is, in the end, a great strategy is shaped by the most senior, most experienced, most talented executive in a corporation. Their time is scarce. We all know the 2x2 matrix of importance versus urgency. They get sucked into the urgent things that just take their time, and nobody really has the time to think about what's important for the long-term best interest of the company. And you have to be that force function. You actually have to pull them out of the muck and let them think about what matters. What are the things that move the needle, and therefore you got to take care of now or else. I think that strategy processes will be more ongoing. Many companies still have seasonal processes. You start in February, you churn through, and then a plan is done in August. Strategy isn't seasonal. It happens whenever it happens. The opportunities come whenever they present themselves. So there needs to be an annual process, an ongoing process that works around the year and addresses issues all the time. And as I mentioned, I think the resources will be more focused on the bigger bets. And for that to be able to be pulled through, prioritization needs to occur in a better way. We can't throw, as I mentioned, strategy resources against everything. Not everything warrants it. And one favorite example that I like to pull out is, so some folks think the Xerox stock is worth $10 plus minus, rounding. What inside the company is worth $10? What are the components that add up to that or distract from it? You add up to 15, you come 5 down. And once you know what the components are, you know which pieces you ultimately need to play with. Because if something is worth 10 cents and I can triple it, it still won't matter. So why bother? I don't mean why bother in a negative sense, but it probably doesn't deserve the same light of day as something that's worth $4 and I can maybe grow it by 50%. So that's what I think. The second implication is that we need better coordination with the businesses. If we have more decentralized strategy development going on and the few big bets are being looked at from a corporate perspective, how do we make sure that that all is coordinated and in totality the biggest questions are being addressed?